Good evening and welcome to our comprehensive global briefing. In a world saturated with information, true understanding requires a commitment to cut through the noise, to scrutinize the narratives, and to connect the seemingly disparate events that shape our reality. Tonight, we delve into a series of critical developments that have unfolded across the globe in the last 48 hours, from the corridors of power in Washington and Moscow to the tech hubs of Silicon Valley and the front lines of geopolitical tension in the Middle East and Asia. We will dissect the intricate details, challenge the prevailing biases, and provide a data-driven analysis designed for those who demand more than just headlines. Our mission is to empower you with the knowledge to not only comprehend the present, but also to anticipate the future. So, let us begin. Our top story tonight is a dramatic escalation in the economic conflict between the United States and Russia. In a move that has sent shockwaves through global energy markets, the Trump administration has imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil. These energy behemoths, which collectively account for over 5% of global oil output, now find themselves in the crosshairs of American foreign policy. This action marks the first time President Trump has sanctioned Russia in his second term and represents a stunning reversal from just 1 week ago, when he had publicly floated the idea of a summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Budapest to find a resolution to the now 3.5-year-old war in Ukraine. The immediate market reaction was a surge in oil prices by 5% to a 2-week high, with Brent crude reaching significant price levels, underscoring the profound impact of this decision on the world's energy supply. President Putin's response was swift and defiant, characterizing the sanctions as an unfriendly act. He asserted that no self-respecting country and no self-respecting people ever decides anything under pressure. Putin issued a thinly veiled threat, warning that a sharp reduction in Russian oil supply would inevitably drive prices higher, a scenario he suggested would be particularly uncomfortable for countries like the United States. The Kremlin has also promised a painful response should the West move to seize frozen Russian assets, a measure that has been debated as a potential source of funding for Ukraine. While the immediate financial impact on Russia may be limited in the short term, the sanctions are a powerful signal of the Trump administration's intent to squeeze Russia's finances and pressure the Kremlin towards a peace deal. It's a high-stakes gamble, and the world is watching to see who will blink first. The geopolitical ripples of this decision are already spreading far and wide. China's state-owned oil majors have reportedly been prompted to suspend their purchases of Russian oil, at least in the short term. India, the largest buyer of seaborne Russian crude, is also expected to sharply cut its imports, according to industry sources. The European Union, for its part, has adopted its 19th package of sanctions against Russia, this time banning Russian liquefied natural gas imports and targeting entities that include Chinese refiners and Central Asian banks. This comes as the EU has already reduced its reliance on Russian energy by approximately 90% since the start of the war, though it still imported over 11 billion euros worth of Russian energy in the first 8 months of this year. The EU has also pledged to meet Ukraine's pressing financial needs for the next 2 years, but has stopped short of endorsing the use of frozen Russian assets to fund a large loan to Kyiv, following concerns raised by Belgium. The complex web of sanctions, counter-sanctions, and diplomatic maneuvering highlights the fragility of the global energy market and the immense challenge of isolating a major world power like Russia. Shifting our focus to the Middle East, a region perennially on the brink, we find a significant and widening rift between the United States and its closest ally, Israel. The Israeli parliament, the Knesset, has passed a highly controversial vote to annex the West Bank, a move that has drawn sharp criticism from the Trump administration, even as it continues to broker a fragile peace process in Gaza. The timing of this vote could not be more precarious, coming as Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Jerusalem for sensitive meetings with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The vote has been described by many as a symbolic but deeply unhelpful provocation, one that threatens to derail the delicate negotiations aimed at achieving a lasting peace in the region. Vice President J.D. Vance, who had just concluded a 3-day trip to Israel, did not mince words in his condemnation of the Knesset's decision. He called it a very stupid political stunt and stated that he personally takes some insult to it. President Trump, however, sought to downplay the significance of the vote, telling reporters Israel's not going to do anything with the West Bank. Okay? Don't worry about it. This divergence in tone between the president and vice president reveals the deep divisions within the administration on how to handle this latest challenge. Meanwhile, Secretary Rubio's meetings with Prime Minister Netanyahu are proceeding under this cloud of uncertainty. Rubio has publicly expressed confidence in the peace process, stating, "We've already done the impossible once." Netanyahu, for his part, has acknowledged that significant security challenges remain, but has also expressed optimism about the potential for cooperation. The question now is whether this latest move by the Knesset will be a mere footnote in the long and tortuous history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or a turning point that leads to a new and more dangerous phase of confrontation. The humanitarian situation in Gaza remains a major point of contention. The United Nations has reported that the flow of aid into the war-ravaged territory is a mere trickle and nowhere near enough to meet the needs of the population. The International Court of Justice has ordered Israel to allow the UN's Palestinian Relief Agency, UNRWA, to deliver aid within Gaza. However, Israel has rejected the court's authority, claiming that UNRWA has been infiltrated by Hamas and that some of its staff actively participated in the October 7th Hamas attack. The United States has backed Israel's position, stating that it does not recognize the binding authority of the ICJ. This impasse over humanitarian aid further complicates an already volatile situation, with the lives of millions of civilians hanging in the balance. In Asia, the stage is being set for a high-stakes diplomatic encounter that could have profound implications for the future of global trade and security. The White House has announced that President Trump will meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on October 30th in Busan, South Korea, on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC summit. This will be the first meeting between the two leaders in President Trump's second term, and it comes at a time of heightened tensions between the two superpowers. President Trump has laid out three key demands on China: a halt to the flow of the deadly synthetic opioid fentanyl, the resumption of soybean purchases, and concessions on the supply of rare earth minerals. The fentanyl crisis, in particular, has become a major point of contention, with Trump accusing China of enabling shipments to the United States and threatening to impose record tariffs of 157% if Beijing does not cooperate. China, in turn, has defended its record and accused Washington of using the fentanyl issue to blackmail it. Beyond these specific demands, a host of other contentious issues are expected to be on the agenda. Taiwan, the self-governing island that China claims as its own, is almost certain to be a topic of discussion. Trade tensions, which have simmered for years and have at times erupted into a full-blown trade war, will also be a major focus. The two leaders will also likely discuss China's territorial ambitions in the South China Sea and its growing technological prowess. President Trump has publicly stated, "I have a very good relationship with President Xi of China," and has offered to lower tariffs in exchange for Chinese cooperation. This meeting could provide an opportunity to de-escalate tensions and find a path towards a more stable and predictable relationship. However, the deep-seated differences between the two countries on a wide range of issues mean that a breakthrough is far from guaranteed. The world will be watching closely to see whether the dragon and the eagle can find common ground, or whether they are destined for a new era of confrontation. We now turn to a story that reads like a modern-day spy novel, but one with very real and very serious consequences. U.S. counterintelligence officials are sounding the alarm about a new and insidious form of espionage that is targeting the heart of America's technological innovation, Silicon Valley. According to these officials, Chinese and Russian intelligence operatives are increasingly using attractive women to infiltrate tech companies, seduce employees, and steal valuable trade secrets through long-term relationships and even marriages. This tactic, which has been dubbed sex warfare, is a deeply personal and manipulative form of espionage that is difficult to detect and even more difficult to combat. James Mulvannon, a 30-year veteran of counterintelligence and the chief intelligence officer of Pamir Consulting, has reported a significant increase in very sophisticated LinkedIn requests from attractive young Chinese women. He has also recounted an incident at a recent business conference on Chinese investment risks where two attractive Chinese women attempted to gain unauthorized entry, armed with detailed information about the event. Malvanon calls this tactic a real vulnerability for the United States, which is culturally and legally restrained in its ability to conduct such operations. He argues that this gives adversaries an asymmetric advantage when it comes to sex warfare. Another former counterintelligence officer has recounted the case of a beautiful Russian woman who married an American aerospace engineer who was working on sensitive projects, conducting a lifelong collection operation. The economic impact of this intellectual property theft is staggering, with estimates of losses reaching up to $600 billion annually, the majority of which is attributed to China. The open and collaborative culture of Silicon Valley, which has been a key driver of its innovation, also makes it a prime target for espionage. As one former US security analyst has put it, it's the Wild West out there. Even allies of the United States, such as South Korea and Israel, are reportedly engaged in quietly gathering intelligence in the region. The threat is not limited to Silicon Valley as the tech industry spreads to other parts of the country, creating new vulnerabilities. The challenge for US counterintelligence is immense. Startups are often reluctant to report threats, and the open culture of the tech industry makes infiltration relatively easy. The rise of this new form of espionage is a stark reminder that the Cold War may be over, but the battle for technological supremacy is just beginning. In another sign of the shifting geopolitical landscape, North Korea has begun construction of a memorial museum of combat feats in its capital, Pyongyang, to honor its soldiers who have been killed fighting in Russia's war on Ukraine. The groundbreaking ceremony was attended by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russia's ambassador to North Korea, a clear demonstration of the deepening military alliance between the two countries. According to South Korean estimates, at least 600 North Korean soldiers have been killed, and thousands more have been wounded fighting in Russia's Kursk region over the past year. Kim Jong-un has praised his troops for helping Russia achieve a decisive victory and has stated that the relationship between North Korea and Russia is now rising to its historic peak. The Memorial Museum will feature sculptures, photos, and artwork portraying the combat, a powerful symbol of the two countries' shared struggle against what they perceive as a hostile West. This development comes after Russia and North Korea signed a strategic partnership agreement last year, which obligates each side to provide military and other assistance should either of them be attacked. North Korea has already sent thousands of soldiers and container loads of weapons to aid the Kremlin's war effort. In Moscow, an art exhibition has been held to celebrate the ties with Pyongyang, further cementing the public narrative of a united front. This deepening alliance between two of the world's most isolated and militarized states is a cause for serious concern for the United States and its allies, as it has the potential to further destabilize an already volatile region. From the world of geopolitics, we now turn to a story of domestic discontent. In New Zealand, an estimated 100,000 to 110,000 public sector workers participated in one of the country's largest strikes in decades on October 23rd. The mega strike brought together approximately 60,000 teachers, more than 30,000 nurses, as well as doctors, firefighters, prison staff, and other government workers. The strikers' demands are varied, but they share common grievances over low pay, staff shortages, a lack of resources, heavy workloads, and deteriorating working conditions. Teachers in particular are calling for better learning support for their students. The strike, which was coordinated across the country, reflects a growing sense of frustration and dissatisfaction among public sector workers who say they have been underfunded by the government for the past decade. The strike took place amidst challenging circumstances, as dangerous winds battered New Zealand for the second time in a week, causing the cancellation of over 200 flights. Despite the weather, the workers took to the streets in cities and towns across the country to make their voices heard. While a large-scale strike over the upcoming holiday period is considered unlikely, the prolonged standoff could prove to be politically risky for the government if the workers' demands are not met. The real battle, as many have noted, will now take place at the bargaining table. This massive display of collective action is a powerful reminder of the importance of public services and the vital role that public sector workers play in society. It is a story that is being closely watched not only in New Zealand but around the world, as many countries grapple with similar challenges of austerity and underfunding in the public sector. Back in the United States, the federal government remains in a state of partial shutdown, with no end in sight. The Senate has failed to pass legislation to pay essential federal workers who are required to work without a paycheck. The political gridlock is a result of a deep partisan divide over how to resolve the crisis. The Republican proposal would have provided pay only for essential workers, such as air traffic controllers, TSA agents, and border patrol officers. The Democrats, on the other hand, put forward a counter-proposal that would have provided pay for all federal workers, including those who have been furloughed, but it also included a poison pill provision that would have limited President Trump's ability to fire federal workers. Both bills were rejected by the opposing parties, leaving hundreds of thousands of federal workers in a state of financial uncertainty. The military is currently being paid through moved around money, but this is only a short-term solution. The ongoing shutdown is not only causing hardship for federal workers and their families, but it is also disrupting a wide range of government services. The stalemate in Washington is a stark illustration of the deep political polarization that has come to define American politics in recent years. It is a crisis that is not only damaging to the country's economy but also to its reputation on the world stage. The United States has adopted an aggressive new strategy in its war on drugs, one that involves the use of military force against drug trafficking vessels in international waters. The Pentagon has announced that it has conducted its 9th strike against a drug trafficking boat in the Eastern Pacific Ocean, following an 8th strike in the same region the previous night. These two latest strikes resulted in the deaths of 5 people. The first 7 strikes were conducted in the Caribbean, largely near Venezuela. This new strategy is based on President Trump's declaration of drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, which he argues gives him the authority to use deadly force against them. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has defended the operations, stating that every one of these strikes involves boats and shipments that were tracked from the very beginning. He has pushed back against criticism from Democrats who have called the strikes illegal. Critics argue that the use of deadly force against non-state actors in international waters without an imminent threat is a violation of international law. This new and more aggressive approach to combating drug cartels represents a significant shift from the traditional law enforcement model. It is a strategy that is fraught with legal and ethical questions, and it remains to be seen whether it will be effective in disrupting the flow of illegal drugs into the United States. Finally, we turn to the world of professional sports, where a major gambling scandal has rocked the National Basketball Association. FBI Director Kash Patel has announced a coordinated takedown across 11 states, resulting in the arrest of over 30 individuals in connection with alleged illegal gambling schemes. Among those arrested are 2 high-profile figures, Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier. Billups has been charged in an indictment that alleges a wide-ranging scheme to rig underground poker games that were backed by mafia crime families. Rozier has been charged in a separate case with participating in an illegal sports betting scheme, in which he allegedly used private insider NBA information. Both men are facing charges of money laundering and wire fraud conspiracy. The FBI has described the case as very much ongoing, with the potential for additional arrests. This scandal has raised serious questions about the integrity of professional basketball, the exploitation of insider information, and the infiltration of organized crime into the world of sports betting. It is a story that is sure to have far-reaching consequences for the NBA and for the broader sports world. In other news, President Trump has issued a presidential pardon for Changpeng Zhao, the founder of the cryptocurrency exchange Binance, who was previously convicted in a money laundering case. The G20 countries are considering the creation of food stocks for crisis preparedness, with India playing a significant role in the initiative. Alaska Air has cut its annual profit forecast, citing higher fuel costs. Apple has begun shipping AI servers from its factory in Houston, a major development in the company's efforts to expand its US-based manufacturing. And in a tragic incident in India, 19 bodies have been recovered from a bus fire, with DNA testing underway to identify the victims. From the global chessboard of geopolitics to the shadowy world of espionage and the high-stakes arena of professional sports, the events of the past 48 hours have once again demonstrated the complexity and interconnectedness of our world. The decisions made in the halls of power in Washington, Moscow, and Beijing have a direct impact on the lives of people around the globe. The stories we have covered tonight are not just headlines. They are the threads that make up the rich and often turbulent tapestry of our time. As always, we will continue to monitor these developments and to provide you with the in-depth analysis and critical perspective that you need to make sense of it all. Thank you for joining us. I'm Boni, and this has been our comprehensive global briefing. Good night.